So after another weekend of football, we are back with another episode of the Championship Roundup to discuss all of the action going on this weekend. Now, we do have a game going on tonight between Middlesbrough and Nottingham Forest, and coming up in midweek, we do have some FA Cup action, which is involving Championship clubs. So towards the end of the video, I'll be giving you guys my score predictions for what I think is going to happen in those games. But for the first half of today's video, we're going to be focusing on the weekend's action. So as always, get your thoughts in the comments down below as to what you made of your team's performance. The league table's continuing to shape up, and things continue to get interesting. Before we do hop into anything though, let's give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, you can find their link in the top line of the description down below to keep up to date with all the latest ongoings in the Championship as we do head into this tail end of the season. OneFootball is the best place to go ahead and do that. Get live updates to your phone when all the goals do go in, and you can keep up to date with the latest news. So like I said, OneFootball link down below. And before we do hop into the individual games, I will include your guys' score predictions on screen now. So if any of you did successfully get any of your score predictions correct, then fair play. I had a decent week. I got 2 of mine correct. I got both the Millwall against Bristol City and QPR against Birmingham games correctly predicted, so not all too bad from me. But without any further ado, let's hop in to talk about these games. So starting things out with the early kickoff, which saw Leeds breeze past Hull City by 4 goals to 0. Now, the news about Kiko Casilla didn't come at an ideal time for Leeds. Obviously, he will now serve an 8-game suspension, but to be honest, it didn't really affect them in this game. Hull barely troubled Leeds going forward, and after 5 minutes, they were in complete control. Luke Ayling with the opening goal. Bit of fortune in this one, as it did take quite a big deflection to take it away from George Long. But moving forward then, there's so many standout players from Leeds who I could pick out from this game. Pablo Hernandez, I think a lot of people have forgotten just how influential he can be because he's been in and out of this Leeds side with injuries so far this season, but an absolutely fantastic performance. He grabbed the second of the game in the second half. That goal was brilliantly set up by Helder Costa. He was another standout to me. Brilliant link up between the two. Great vision to put Hernandez in and a sweeping finish in. Costa's someone who's really grown in confidence, especially comparing him to the start of the season. Seems to be getting better week in, week out. But then Tyler Roberts came off the bench and grabbed 2 goals for himself. The first of which, what a fantastic team goal. This was like peak Leeds football here. Brilliantly working the ball out from the back. Swift moving forward. Brilliant layoff, and then Roberts with a smashing finish. Roberts, another player who I do highly rate, it's just he always seems to be injured. And then he grabbed the 4th of the game a few moments after that as well. A brilliant ball in from Click from the outside of the box, and then a diving header. George Long didn't even bother. What a game for Leeds. And this is what we've been waiting for Leeds. You know, they tend to create a lot of chances per game, but they're not always too clinical. This one, they absolutely took Hull apart. And Hull, I've got to say, I think that a lot of people are worried for them now. Only 4 points off the relegation zone. They're on the worst run of form in the Championship. And looking at that starting 11 now that they lined up with against Leeds, considering obviously the players they lost in January, but also the people they got out injured at the moment, I'm really not too sure where the next points are coming from for them, because that is a really average side. In 3 of their next 4 matches, they've got games against Stoke, Charlton and Middlesbrough. It's season defining for Hull. If they don't walk away from those 3 games with a respectable amount of points, the relegation's looming for them. Then at Ewood Park, we had 2 sides chasing down the top 6. Blackburn against Swansea, this one finishing as a 2-2 draw. Swansea at the moment just can't hold on to a lead, can they? They've dropped 5 points in their last 4 matches from goals conceded in stoppage time. Obviously, they conceded later on in this one. Against Fulham, they conceded to Mitrovic in the last minute, and a couple of weeks ago, we saw Hull levelling things up in the last minute. Tommy scoring in a 4-4 draw, but quite an entertaining one this one. It was Blackburn, the home side, who took the lead. Swansea caught out defensively. Nice run from Ryan Niambi from right back. Got the ball in, and then Sam Gallagher just managed to get in front of his man. There was a bit of a mix-up between the defender and Woodburn, and he just managed just to poke it into the net to make it 1-0. But just before half-time, Swansea are able to level things up. Brewster with his 4th goal of the season for Swansea. Really well worked this one from outside the box. Brewster just pulled off to the left-hand side, takes a nice touch, and then fires it low into the bottom corner. I think Brewster has added real quality to Swansea's forward line, and had they had him for the whole season, probably would be a little bit further up the table. Moving into the second half, we did then see a couple of penalties awarded. Swansea awarded the first one, which AU managed to tuck away. Blackburn are then presented with the perfect opportunity to get back into the game as Ben Brereton is clumsily fouled really by Joe Rose and just sort of bundled over inside the box. Danny Graham steps up to take it, but Freddie Woodman once again produces the save from the penalty spot. Blackburn are absolutely throwing everything at Swansea at this point. Danny Graham hits the post as well. They're trying to get something from somewhere. Stuart Downing's pulling off into those positions, looking to create something, but it's just not falling for them until the 95th minute when Bradley Johnson from outside the box, with help from a slight deflection, manages to find the top corner. It ends 2-2. Swansea will be gutted with that. Both sides will probably see this one as a bit of an opportunity missed, but given that once again pretty much every team above them drop points again, it still keeps the playoff picture very much open heading into the final few weeks. And then we saw 2 other playoff hopefuls this season. Cardiff and Brentford go up against each other. This one also finishing as a 2-2 draw. Brentford are, they find themselves quite fortunate at the moment that a lot of the teams below them don't find themselves in a good run of form, as Brentford themselves are without a win in their last last 5 matches now. Now, they got off to the perfect start in this game, taking the lead after just 5 minutes, Rakic with the goal, and then 21 minutes in, and Mbeumo with an absolutely fantastic free kick to make it 2-0. From that point onwards, and the Brentford that we've known from a couple months ago probably goes on to see the game out from there. You know, defensively they've been very strong, but lately defensively quite a few cracks have been shown, I think it has to be said. Balls coming into the box, they've really struggled with defending, and that was exactly how Cardiff got back into the game. A bit of quality in the build up to the first goal, nice ball in from Adoma and then towards the back post, and I think it was Mbeumo marking Junior Hoylett. Hoylett gets a diving header, not a goal that you'd normally associate someone like Hoylett scoring, but that makes it 2-1, and suddenly Cardiff are back in the game. They're looking to play on the front foot a little bit more, pushing a little bit further up, and they get their reward for that pressure just before half time. Ral's levelling things up once again, their secret weapon being that Will Vokes long throw. It was a brilliant launch into the box, which was then flicked on by Morrison towards the back post where Ral's was waiting to make it 2-2. Then going on into the second half, Brentford had a lot of the possession and a lot of the ball, but it was probably Cardiff with the better chances. Brentford criminally allowed a ball to roll across the box where Bennett was waiting for it at the far post, but he could only find the side netting. Adoma had the speculative effort from outside the box, but it just wasn't to be for them, so ultimately finishing as a 2-2 draw in the end. Brentford do find themselves 3 points above Bristol City in 7th place, but they're going to need to find their feet sooner rather than later, because you do feel as if those sides below the top 6 are going to pick up in form sooner rather than later. For Cardiff, the result leaves them 5 points outside the top 6, still not a million miles away, but they need to be turning a lot of these draws into wins now. And then we had Fulham beating Northend by 2-0. Frustrating result for Preston really, but we have had a bit of a tricky run in lately, obviously playing West Brom in midweek and then going away to Fulham this weekend, and we started out fairly well for this game. I thought, you know, we looked to put Fulham under a little bit of pressure. Had we got that goal in the first half, maybe it would have turned out a little bit different. It was one of those games where the first goal always did feel quite important. You know, Fulham, when they do take the lead at home, tend to have a very strong record and don't throw all too many points away. Alan Brown, a couple of chances fell to him. Shunny Maguire had the ball in the back of the net, but that one was ruled out for offside. Moving into the second half though, Fulham did finally manage to make the breakthrough. David Nugent putting the ball into the back of his own net. It was a corner that was swung in. Nugent was sort of at the front post looking to head anything away. The ball just flicked in off his head and then looped over Declan Rudd. From that point onwards, it was always going to be tough then for us to get back into it. We didn't really have that impetus to break Fulham down and get him behind. You know, since January on the whole, they have been a lot stronger defensively with Rodak in net and Hector at the back. There are a couple of set pieces here and there from which we threatened. You know, Rodak made a couple of more good saves in that second half, but nothing all too clear cut. And then obviously eventually Fulham went to wrap it up in the 95th minute, scoring on the counter-attack. Fulham just about keeping tabs with the top 2 at the moment. Obviously Leeds winning this weekend as well, so the gap remains at 5 points. Should Fulham still be in the automatic race, I think will be quite crucial their next 3 games. Their next 3, they got Bristol City away, Brentford at home, and then Leeds United away. So that could be the game where things swing for them, but a good win for Fulham nonetheless. For Preston, it's been a tough week for us, but I would say that our fixture list does improve significantly after this. You know, we got games against QPR, Luton and Cardiff next, which all should be winnable. However, we are going to be without Ben Pearson, who could be out for up to a month with a hamstring injury. So obviously not ideal news for us, but if we manage to get through these next 2 games with a decent amount of points, I still fancy our chances for finishing in the top 6. And it was another big 3 points for Huddersfield this weekend as they beat Charlton by 4-0, leaving Charlton in quite the perilous position, just 2 points above the relegation zone. And obviously Middlesbrough do have that game in hand to play against Nottingham Forest tonight. Huddersfield for this one took control really after the opening goal. It was of Charlton's own doing for the opening one really, trying to play out from the back. Colin Grant kept the pressure on and managed to squeeze it in past Dylan Phillips. After that, moving on into the second half, there were some brilliant passages of play from Huddersfield, I think it has to be said. Charlton had a couple of moments where they could have levelled things up had they got that equaliser. Might have been a bit of a different game, but I mean, Mounier's goal in the 75th minute, brilliant one-touch play from Huddersfield in the build-up to this one. Eventually the ball comes in and he casually slots it in with his chest. Colin Grant's second against his former club was also really nicely worked. Nice run from Bakuna in midfield, a driving run forward to slip him in. And then Bakuna's goal, oh my god, to wrap things up. What an absolute thunderbolt that one was. Into the top bins. No goalkeeper saving that one, and it was a fantastic day for Huddersfield, who, like I say, brilliant football on display, no complaints about that really. Charlton, on the other hand, I mean, the difference in levels of quality between these two really must be a bit of a worry for Charlton. I think someone like Darren Pratley seemed to be a real miss for this one. They were struggling to break things up in midfield. Huddersfield just had it way too easy. In the Championship now, I think that in sort of the bottom 8 clubs at the moment, there is sort of a mini league forming, and if you can get the better of those clubs around you, you stand a good chance of survival. Huddersfield have done that in this one. Charlton, though, their next 2 matches, But so much hinges on these, as the next two, they got games against Middlesbrough and Hull. If they don't pick up at least like 4 points out of those two games, they're going to be in a really dangerous position. Another big game at the bottom of the table saw Luton going up against Stoke, this one finishing as a 1-1 draw, which does mean there is still a 5-point gap between the two sides. It was Stoke who got off to the better start in this game. Nicely worked goal from Sam Vokes, him slotting in for his 7th goal of the season to make it 1-0. After that, Stoke had the chances to make it 2-0. Had they done that, they'd have probably wrapped this game up. You know, Tommins had a handful of chances. Sluga saved one well with his feet in the first half. He had a couple more in the second half. Nick Powell had a good chance in the second half, just wasn't quite falling for them. Luton were a bit slow to get going in this one and weren't really looking like the same side that beat Brentford on Tuesday. It took them a while to get into gear for this one. They did have a goal ruled out in the second half for offside. That would have been really as close as they were coming to scoring. And it was heading towards a 1-0 away victory and looked like Stoke had just about done enough to go ahead and close off this game, looking to kill off the game in the second half. But in the 91st minute, Luton were awarded a penalty, a trip in the box from James Chester on McManaman. To be honest, I mean, it did look like there was contact in there, but the way that McManaman went down was ridiculously dramatic. But the penalty was given nonetheless, and Collins sent Butland the wrong way to make it 1-1. So Stoke could be in the relegation zone come the end of today should Middlesbrough win tonight. It's all still very close at the bottom, and who's going down this season? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Two playoff hopefuls went up against each other at the Den. Millwall versus Bristol City, this one finishing all level as a 1-1 draw. A lot of draws going on this weekend. It was Bristol City, the away side, who took the lead in this one. Lopez Pereira with a nice finish into the bottom corner, that being Bristol City's only shot on target for this entire match. After that, it was all Millwall going forward really, and given the whole flow of the game, Bristol City probably quite lucky to come away from this one with a point really, given some of the chances that Bristol City had. I mean, looking at the match stats, that paints a picture for the match itself, but it did take up until the second half for Millwall to get back into this game. The goal coming from a corner, Thomas Callas getting the final touch, and it was there a foul in there? Possibly. I've seen Lee Johnson talking about that, but before and after the goal, Millwall had enough chances to go ahead and bury this one. A lot of chances fell in the way of Matt Smith. Daniel Bentley had to be level to a lot of headers he had coming in. Tom Bradshaw hit the side netting from a good chance, and it was mostly Millwall with that attacking intent. In the second half, couple of controversial decisions. I did think that probably both clubs got a little bit unlucky not to get a penalty really. Bristol City first for a handball from Jake Cooper, Vyman whipping in the cross. It was a handball. I think if that's in the Premier League with VAR, it's given as a penalty, and then a few minutes after that, Millwall were then unlucky not to get a penalty. Malumbi going down in the box, and you know, it's one of those where does the referee not give that penalty because he's not given the one previously to sort of balance it out. The result means Millwall are 5 points away from the playoffs, whereas Bristol City are just 2. QPR against Birmingham ended as a 2-2 draw. Quite an entertaining one, this one. I usually back QPR for a 2-2 draw, I think, but this time it actually came off. Jordan Hugill did have the ball in the back of the net, but that one was ruled out for offside. He couldn't quite beat the offside trap. One player who did manage to do that was Scott Hogan for the opener for Birmingham. Nice ball over the top from Maxime Collin into Hogan, who latched onto it, manages to poke the ball around the goalkeeper, then lets the ball roll into the back of the net. He now has 6 goals for Birmingham this season since signing for them in January. Obviously went on to score the equaliser late on in this game as well, but no player has scored more championship goals than Scott Hogan since he signed for Birmingham. What a stat, what a player he's been, and what an impact. QPR did turn things around in the second half though. It was Pugh with the first goal in the 51st minute, headed back across from Jordan Hugill. Pugh then had a tap in, and then Hugill got on the score sheet just a few minutes after that goal. Really nicely worked this one. Brilliant give and go between Asai Samuel and Eze. Asai Samuel then whips the ball in, and Jordan Hugill manages to get in front of his man, and a nice finish to make it 2-1. But that man Scott Hogan is on hand to get Birmingham back into the game, and their unbeaten streak continues for another week. So Birmingham on a good roll at the moment. QPR always capable of scoring goals, ended up being a good game between the two. Then we had Reading beating Barnsley by 2-0. Big result in Reading season. The result leaves them 8 points above the relegation zone for the time being, so it does give them a bit of a buffer. For Barnsley, leaves them in a bit of a dangerous position, and it was a good chance for Barnsley to be playing Reading, coming off the back of midweek where Reading were absolutely dismal against Wigan, losing 3-0, so to be keeping the clean sheet in this one will be quite the confidence booster going forward, although they do have quite a bit to owe that to their goalkeeper, Raphael, who produced some absolutely marvellous saves in this game. It was Reading who took the lead though after 17 minutes, Barnsley failing to deal with a John Swift free kick which was swung in. A bit of a scrambled goal in the end. Barnsley should have done better with clearing it really, but Matey got the final touch and it just about rolled across the goal line to give them the lead. In that first half and throughout the game, Woodrow was Barnsley's biggest attacking threat like he has been throughout the season so far. There was one particular moment where Michael Morrison had slipped upon the ball, allowed Woodrow to get in on goal, but he dragged his shot wide. He had another chance in that first half, a fantastic double chance actually, one which was saved well by Raphael, and then the rebound fell to him. He tried to angle his shot towards the top corner, but a brilliant reflex save, double save in quick succession from Raphael, kept him out on both occasions, and it just wasn't going to be Barnsley's day going forward. Eventually Reading did make it 2-0 going into the second half. Really nice finish from Puskas for his 10th goal of the season, and ultimately from 2 goals down you never really saw Barnsley getting back into to it. So like I say, a big result for Reading and a big way for them to bounce back from what was an awful performance in midweek. Barnsley going to need to pick up points from somewhere now. Then we had Derby County 3, Sheffield Wednesday 1. I thought wrongly that Sheffield Wednesday might have turned the corner after beating Charlton in midweek, but no, back to square one in this one, and normal service was resumed at Hillsborough. Defensively, Derby absolutely took them apart. Tom Lawrence grabbing 2 goals in this one, now on 9 for the season. He opened the scoring after 7 minutes. His effort deflected from outside the box, managing to wrong foot Dawson. After that, he manages to make it 2 after 24 minutes. What Tom Leeds was doing, I'm not so sure. Trying to dribble out from the back. Chris Martin picks up the ball up well, and a nice finish from Tom Lawrence to make it 2. Once again, Chris Martin getting the assist for the 3rd one as well. He got a hat-trick of assists in this game. But it was once again Sheffield Wednesday's undoing. A poor pass given away cheaply in midfield. Derby were able to quickly turn the ball over. Martin slips in that, and after 30 minutes it was 3-0 to Derby. Home fans were leaving, and that put an end to what was a dismal first 45 minutes from Sheffield Wednesday. They improved slightly after the break, but that's not really hard to do after what was shown in the first half. Josh Windass did grab a goal back for them, but that would only be a consolation, and ultimately it was another shocker from Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough. I really don't know what's happened to them, because at the start of the season they weren't always sort of the most entertaining side to watch, but they were at least a well-organised, well-drilled side under Gary Monk, and that's completely gone out of their play since the start of 2020. I think this group of players and Gary Monk have a lot to answer to at the moment, but Derby, nice for them to get back to winning ways. Good 3 points for them on the road. And then to round things off, we had West Brom 0, Wigan Athletic 1. Who saw this one coming? Wigan have climbed out of the bottom 3 with an absolutely massive 3 points away at the Hawthorns, and you can't even say as if this was like sort of a smash and grab performance from Wigan, because they were fully worth it in this one. West Brom just never quite got going. They had chances here and there, you know, a couple fell to Kravinovic. Robinson tried to make a couple of things happen, Pereira, but it's quite easy, especially going away to West Brom, to sort of bow to the brilliance of them, to stand off them, allow them to play their football, and eventually they'll pick you apart. Wigan didn't want that to be the case in this one, and although West Brom were a little bit sloppy going forward, Wigan took their chance when it came around. It was a corner that came in, West Brom failed to clear it, a little bit scrappy in and around the box, but it eventually fell to Sam Morsey, and then with a smashing finish, that would be the only goal of the game. In 2020, no team has picked up more points than Wigan Athletic. It's like they come alive in the second half of the season, because contrast Wigan at the moment to Wigan a couple months ago, completely night and day. There seems to be much more of a spirit about them now, and within Paul Cook as well. You know, I've doubted Paul Cook all throughout the season. I've said, you know, countless times that I think that with the squad they've got there, they should be doing better. He should be working better with the resources he's got there, but that win now takes them up to 19th in the table, puts them on 40 points, and you have to say, with the way they're playing at the moment, they've got some very winnable games coming up next as well. They've got Luton at home and Stoke at home as 2 of their next 3 home matches. As for West Brom, it was a disappointing result, and one that does mean that Leeds have caught up to within 1 point of them now at the top of the Championship. They do have an FA Cup game in midweek, which will look to take their mind off things, but quite sloppy from them in this one. But guys, there were all the games that did go on this weekend. Like I said before, we do have a game going on in the Championship tonight, so feel free to leave your thoughts on that game in the comments down below, and we'll have a bit of a discussion about it after it has happened. Obviously, we'll talk about it on the next video as well. But Middlesbrough going up against Nottingham Forest. To be honest, I said it in my preview video. If you want to listen to my thoughts a bit more in depth on the match, go and check that one out. But I am fancying Forest for this one. I think they'll just about get through it, with Middlesbrough struggling going forward at the moment. I back Forest for a 1-0 away victory. In terms of my result of the weekend for this weekend's fixtures though, I mean, it's got to go to Wigan Athletic. What a fantastic result beating West Brom. And for my goal of the weekend, I'm going to give it to Bakuna for the absolute thunderbolt goal against Charlton Athletic. And before we do wrap up today's video, we do have FA Cup action going on in midweek. Some of those games do involve Championship clubs, so I thought before we do wrap it up, I'll give you guys my thoughts on what I think is going to happen in the 5th round of the FA Cup. So obviously replays are scrapped at this stage of the competition, so winners are going to be decided on the night, and I'd be interested to know from you guys, what are you fancying to happen, especially with the Championship clubs in action. Portsmouth against Arsenal, I'm going to back Arsenal for getting through there. They always seem to have a strong run in the FA Cup, back them for 3-1 away from home. Chelsea-Liverpool's an interesting one. Obviously Liverpool coming off the back of that loss against Watford. What team's Klopp going to put out? I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in that game and say Liverpool are going to win on penalties. Our first game involving the Championship club sees Reading going up against Sheffield United. Reading is such a hot and cold side where you never know what to expect from them. In this game, I think I'm edging towards Sheff United with that bit more squad depth. I'm going to go 2-1, although I'm interested to see if Matt Bowen does put out a fully strong Reading side for this one. West Brom against Newcastle comes at an interesting time for West Brom after they lost against Wigan at the weekend. Good chance for a bit of rotation and to get back to winning ways. Newcastle, not a dazzling team to watch this season, but they tend to grind out results. Don't see all too many goals being in that one, but I actually think that West Brom may get through it. I'll go 1-0. Birmingham against Leicester is an absolutely fascinating match, and with Leicester being a bit dodgy at the moment, obviously they lost at the weekend against Norwich, weren't all too convincing in that one, and with Birmingham now being on the longest unbeaten run in England after Liverpool lost at the weekend, I'm gonna fancy an upset in that one. I'm gonna say 2-1 Birmingham. Scott Hogan to score again. Sheff Wednesday against Man City. Now this one could be an absolute bloodbath at Hillsborough with their record at home in 2020, going up against this Man City squad, who obviously are coming off the back of a cup final against Villa. I think Man City may take full control on this one. I'm going to go 5-0 Man City. Spurs against Norwich, they expect the home side to get through. I'm going to go 2-0 Spurs. And then finally we got Derby going up against Man United. Rooney up against Man United. I'm sure the media will go absolutely ballistic if Rooney does get on the score sheet for this one. I think that Man United may just get through this one, but Derby shouldn't be wrote off with the way they're playing at the moment and the way that Rooney's impacted the squad since he's come in. I think they'll give them a good game, but I think Man United may just edge it 2-1. But there's all the action going on in midweek in the FA Cup, so feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments down below with what you think is going to happen. But apart from that, that will now wrap it up for today's video, guys. So if you're going to enjoy, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you subscribe for a bit of regular championship content. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.